Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Hey guys, today I'm bringing you a best smartphones of 2014. Now, these are going to be the absolute best smartphones that came out in 2014 for various reasons, and then we will find out which is the best smartphone of 2014. Let's begin. So, coming in at number 10 is the OnePlus One. So this was a phone that definitely stood out in a lot of people's minds, and a lot of people might wonder, why is it not higher up on the list? Well, that's just something very simple. It's not available still. Still, you cannot just buy the phone so simply. You have to be required to get an invite, even still to this day. And that's just horrible. And they've been saying they're going to bring it available to everyone, to the masses, for a while now, but it's still not. And that definitely hurt it. At the end of 2014, you still just cannot simply buy a OnePlus One. You still have to have the invite. Other than that, I mean, it was a very, very, enticing phone. For $299, you have a 16 gig, or for $349, only $50 more, you have a 64 gig device. And it did have a 13 megapixel. The battery was a little bit bad to begin with, but it seemed to get a lot better as the updates came along. The camera was still okay despite it being 13 megapixels, but really where it shined was the processing power, the RAM, and the screen size. Plus it had LTE, and you didn't have to mess with just HSPA Plus or anything like that, which some other budget phones sometimes sacrifice. So because of this, the OnePlus One did make the list, but unfortunately it did not get higher than number 10. And when we move on to the next one, we have the Nexus 6. Now, the Nexus 6 is, the standard phone for any Android lover. Most Android users will always love Nexus devices, but this one did rank a lot lower than its predecessors have in the past years. The reason it did was, one, because of a huge price hike. The fact that it went for $649 for 32 gig, or it went for $699 for 64 gig, not to mention that it's pretty much sold out since it came out on Google's Play Store. Really, to get it, you have to get a carrier version, which kind of defeats the purpose of a Nexus to begin with. But the really thing that makes it stand out, that to me was just a horrible decision, is the fact that it is still not made for a bigger screen size. You can have a big screen and not have it be useful. And that's really what the Nexus did. It fell into the same trap that so many other phablet creators have done. And that is, if you don't have any use of a big screen besides just watching a video, then don't make a big screen phone. This is why all other phablets have failed, with the exception of the Note 4 and the iPhone 6 Plus. And that's simply because of the fact that they actually at least use it a bit more. Now, the Note has done the best because it does have things like split screen, the pen, everything is just used on here. And yet on regular Android, we still don't have split screen. We still don't have anything that is one-handed operation usable built in on the Nexus itself. Of course, you can get third-party apps, but this is something that Google should have delivered by themselves. And it's one of the reasons why they're on here, but not higher. Of course, if you still want the stock Android experience, it's not a bad way to go. Next up comes one of the front runners. I thought for a long time this would be on the top 3, but it did get debunked for a couple of things, and that is the LG G3. So the G3 did make the list, of course, but it didn't get any higher on the list because of a couple of things. The G3 did do well when it came to certain things, such as battery life. Battery life was very good on this device, but it wasn't as good as compared to last year. The G2 actually destroys the G3 on battery life specifically, and that's one thing that I hate to see in a manufacturer, for them to lose out in. The G2 actually has a longer battery life than the G3, and it's pretty substantial in comparison. Not to mention, the feel of it got so much cheaper compared to the G2. The feel of the backing, switching back to plastic, was just really, it was way too slippery. It did lose a lot of my respect when it came to just having that kind of backing. Definitely just, I think it hurt it in a lot of ways. Not to mention that I still feel that the whole back button needs to be further away from the camera. And because of that, it just really got annoying when I needed to push the power button. I did like the knock knock feature. That is probably my favorite thing about the G3. But now that it's coming to other Android devices, and everyone from Motorola has it to Nexus having it, it just kind of lost a lot of its appeal. However, the camera was good, but not as good to put in the top 5. That was one of the big things that hurt about the camera, is that it's just not as impressive as I would have hoped, and that I had hoped when it first came out. I thought the G3 would just blow everyone out of the water when it came to camera, but upon using it, it definitely underperformed to my expectations. Besides that and the battery life, the main thing that I could not stand about the G3 for everyday usage was that the screen was really poor quality on the outside. If you have a bright sunny day, as I do in Southern California many a days, I really could not see the screen very clearly at all outside. It was really, really bad. And this was something that, again, the G2 did better than the G3. It was brighter outside, so you could see it more easily. Now, I know this might seem nitpicky, but if you can't see your screen outside, and to the extent that the G3 had, it was really bad. And honestly, because of that, the Quad HD display did not impress me for that reason, because if I can't see it when it's outside, well, I'll trade a 1080p display that I can see very easily outside any day of the week. Now for the next one, number 7 comes the HTC Desire Eye. That's right. Although the One M8 did not make the list, the Desire Eye definitely did. And that's because it improved on a lot of the things that made the M8 good, but it improved it in a better way, in my opinion. The Desire Eye really made it a standout device simply because of the fact that we had a 13 megapixel front camera with a flash. Now, for a lot of my friends that are selfie takers, they definitely appreciate this. And I really do like it. Now, the downsides to this phone was simply because right now it's only an AT&T exclusive, and I really wish that it wasn't. That is one of the things that did hurt it. I did like a lot of the just cool stuff that HTC came up with. Many people don't even know this, but you have a selfie stand case, which kind of has like a little flap that comes out and gives you a perfect position for selfies, which I definitely am a fan of. Again, you have an amazing processor, Snapdragon 801 on here, which is on most of these devices. Most of these devices are either going to be the 801 or 805 processor. The cameras are really what make this device stand out. In terms of battery life, it is a good battery life, not amazing, but still definitely really good when it comes to it. Now, it doesn't feel as nice compared to the M8, as most people have agreed with, but the really thing that hurts this is I don't particularly like the look, the two-tone white and red look from it. I just, I wish they had a lot more color options than they do. And definitely, I feel I am still not a Sense fan. I still don't care for Sense as much. And I would have liked to see a bigger battery than a 2,400 milliamp. I just feel that although it's 20 hours with 3G, with 4G, it doesn't last as long. And battery is one of the things that did hurt this, as well as just overall, I wish Sense would allow you to remove more things. Like on AT&T, you can remove the bloatware, as you can with other manufacturers such as Motorola, Nexus, and Samsung. They allow you to remove the bloatware, and unfortunately, HTC does not. This is one thing that I wish HTC would do, and I would have put them higher up on the list. But the fact that it only has with AT&T, the fact that it only comes in really one relatively cover, it's very limited. And that's the only reasons why this device wasn't higher on the list, for overall having an amazing camera quality, which is something that I really place highly on my top 10 list. All right, number 6 is the iPhone 6. So I could not make, of course, a top 10 list without considering the iPhone. And out of the 2 iPhones that did come out this year, I do think the iPhone 6 was the better between the 6 and the 6 Plus. Now, one thing I will note is that the 6 Plus, I really did appreciate them having the ability to have optical image stabilization. I wish it was something that they could put on the iPhone 6, but I understand because of manufacturing restraints, they couldn't. Because they didn't have one phone with it all, that's why I placed number 6 on this list. Because on iPhones, I really get a lot of fuzzy shots every time I take the camera out, and just never as clear as I would like. On the 6 Plus, it was better, but the 6 Plus, there's no reason to have the big screen. Apple doesn't take advantage of the big screen except for on their like mail app and text message app. That's about it. There's no advantage to having a bigger screen iPhone. They don't make it useful. The one-handed operation is a joke. So that's why the 6 Plus wasn't on there. But the iPhone 6 is a solid phone overall. Battery life still could be much better, and it's one of the, again, misses about the 6 that the 6 Plus did better. But overall, the 6 Plus did not take advantage of the bigger screen, and that's why overall the iPhone 6 would be the better between the two. And I feel that it is, for the first time, enough of an upgrade if you're an iPhone 5 user to get the iPhone 6, because the bigger screen does make a big difference. And it's funny because, you know, iPhone users were always about, oh, no, we don't want a bigger screen. You know, how could you use that big Android phone? And they came so quick to the bigger screen. And that was the iPhone 6 and number 6. So if the iPhone 6 is number 6, what do you think number 5 is going to be? That's right, it's the Galaxy S5. The Galaxy S5, despite all the hating that went on from it, and there was a lot of hate that went on with the Galaxy S5, is really just an overall amazingly solid phone. And the reason why it beat out even some higher spec phones like the G3, the HTC One MI, or iDesire, is really because of a couple of things. One, it's just consistency of battery life and camera quality between those other two devices. It definitely outperforms the other devices when it comes to camera quality and battery life. And those two things are really important to almost every user. It really is coming down between camera and battery life. Second thing is, I love the fact that Samsung allows you to disable or uninstall all bloatware now. This was a huge deal that I wish other manufacturers, from LG to HTC to Sony, would add to their phones. You can remove the bloatware. You can remove all the Samsung apps. You can remove the Google apps. You can remove the carrier apps. This was a really big win for me. Not to mention the fact that it was water resistant. I did take my S5 into the water several times, and I did find it to be a really great experience just because that I can go in the water with my phone, and I really didn't have to worry about it. This really stood out to me. There were a lot of things, don't get me wrong, that I did not care for. I don't care about a heart rate monitor. I really didn't see it as an important thing. I'm not the biggest fan of a fingerprint scanner. It's just not me. So there, as Samsung often does, there is a lot of extra stuff. One of the biggest reasons why I didn't get higher on the list too was because of the limited storage. You could only get 16 gigs in the US. I would have loved to see a 32 gig variant, and I think that would have done a lot better. But overall, the screen brightness improved dramatically from the S4. The battery life was exponentially better in comparison. You also had a great improvement on the camera quality. The camera quality to the S4 to the S5 was a huge improvement, and I still put the S5 on the top 4 to 5 cameras of the year. It really, camera quality is stupendous on this S5, and one of the things that really stood out to me was instant HDR, which, in my opinion, no other phone outside of Samsung does just quite as well. Now, number 4 on our list is the Moto G 2nd edition. Now, if you want to talk best bang for your buck, this phone is it. Coming in at $179, you have a 720p display phone, as well as a 5-inch screen, front-firing speakers. You can get a GSM version that works for AT&T or T-Mobile, and it really is just the great fusion of price point and value. The Moto G 2nd edition really just stands out for this purpose. I mean, the fact that you can get under $200, a quad-core phone, beautiful display, works great. Look, this is the best bang for your buck by far. It just works so well, and it does work off of HESPA+. so you can use it with AT&T or T-Mobile networks, and really you don't have to pay that much. It's a really great phone. It's for any kind of overall user. If you want a budget-friendly phone that you can get easily, that's going to be the Moto G second edition. This is one thing that reason again why the OnePlus One phone didn't rank as high, because you can't get it easily. The Moto G second edition, you can go into your Best Buy, you can go into a lot of places and just pick it up right now. So for that reason, the Moto G second edition is really great. The reason why it didn't get higher, it was back and forth between this and third place. The reason why it didn't rank higher is because we don't yet have that 16 gig version with LTE and a larger battery. As soon as that one comes in, this will be ranked up. But since we're in 2014 and it's still not out, that's not going to be the case. Therefore, number 3 goes to the Xperia Z3. Man, Sony has come a long way when it comes to phones. I mean, in just the short time they've really been out, they have made just amazing features that came with it. So one of the biggest things is it is going to be a waterproof phone, meaning it can go 6 feet under water, and that is just such a nice feature. There's no denying it, the Sony just looks great. It really does look great. The glass backing, I love the way the Sony looks. I still feel it's a bit slippery at times, but overall it's really good. You also have the faster processor of the 2.5 quad-core version on this phone. You have a really nice big battery. You have Android 4.4 already built in on it, 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, and a 20 megapixel camera. It really is an amazing phone. And really the things that set it a bit apart is, one of the things is the low light didn't quite meet my expectations overall, Sony's low light, and their color reproduction. It was a bit soft. These are things that I'm hoping will change with the Z4 that'll come out in 2015, but it really did do wonders. Not to mention that, of course, if you're a PS4 owner like I am, you can play your PS4 games through Remote Play, which I definitely dig. I really like that ability, and as a PS4 owner, I really like it. And it's nice to see Sony really doing better in their mobile industry. Hopefully that gains the profit in 2015 for them, though, as they are having a rough time. So what phone could beat out the Xperia Z3? Well, that's going to be the Droid Turbo. Motorola makes a comeback, and in a big way. Yes, the number 2 phone of the year, and well-deservedly so, is the Motorola Droid Turbo. Now, on paper, I thought this was going to take the cake. I thought this was going to be the best phone of the year. I mean, you're talking a Quad HD display, 5.2-inch screen. It's got an AMOLED screen from Samsung. It has splash resistance, which only means you can't splash it. It cannot go in water. But you have a 20.7 megapixel camera. You have a dual LED flash, f2.0 lens. I mean, it just looked amazing on paper. It really did stand out. Not to mention, you have, of course, again, 3 gigs of RAM. You have a 32 gig and a 64 gig variant, and it had the biggest battery life out there on a smartphone in the US at 3,900 milliamps. That is insane. And it really looked like it was going to be the top one, period. It just, like, there could be no better than the Motorola Droid Turbo. And the only reason it's not is because, again, one thing that does count is going to be camera quality. Now, battery life, this phone has down, although it does take a bit longer to charge than they really say. It takes about 2 hours to fully charge this device. However, that is, again, because of the battery. But don't buy into the whole, oh, you can charge it in 15 minutes, 8 hours. 8 hours is a standby time. So if you're actually using it, 15 minutes is not going to give you that long. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but overall it was still good. It's not as bright as I expected, especially when seeing other AMOLED screens from Samsung. It was really surprising how it wasn't as bright. I did love the speakers in the front. Again, that was one thing that really put it above other devices. And the real thing that made it hurt, though, is what Motorola has not done good since the very beginning, really, and that is the camera quality. The camera quality was flat. The video recording was very shaky and doesn't really match when you're outside and you have different lighting situations. It doesn't cover it properly. It kind of goes in and out very slowly, as well as the autofocusing takes longer. And it's certain things like that that really held it back. And I wish if Motorola could just get a good camera, that would change everything, and this would have been number one. But the camera did hurt it, and the overall brightness outside did hurt as well. In terms of its size, look, it's a size for more conventional users too. It's a 5.2 inch, so it did run a lot better with that. But overall, it just didn't hit number one because there can be only one. And I called it at the beginning of the year, and I thought it would be this phone, and it did turn out to be the Galaxy Note 4. That's right. The Galaxy Note 3 won last year, and the Note 4 killed it this year. I mean, overall, there's just no arguing with this phone. It has easily the top two cameras out there on the market in terms of smartphones. It just really, the rear camera and the front camera is so good of a combination, and in all settings. Because it has optical image stabilization, really the low light, it does very well. Besides not only being keeping your phone steady, it really allows it to let through more light, and just the low light is so much better in comparison to the Note 3. If you haven't seen that comparison, please take a look at that. It was just night and day difference. The front camera is so much better for selfie takers. It really just blew everything away when it came to it. You have a 5.7 inch screen, which is easier to hold in the hand because of the ability that you have a perfect one-handed usability, where you can really use this phone one-handed very easily. The S Pen actually became useful this time around, being able to highlight things that you could not normally highlight in apps, defining things. It really just came across a lot better. The glass is really strong. The metal frame feels so much better than in the past. It really is the phone to beat. And it really just did such an amazing job. Again, sticking with 32 gigs built in. The only thing that really could have improved on is the speaker. The speaker is very loud, but it's placed on the wrong side. It's placed on the back. If Samsung would place the speaker on the front, I really think that this would be the perfect phone, period. The battery life is amazing, still about a day and a half for average users. It really killed it on pretty much every section you could think of. The Note 4 really stood out, and that's why it is the best top phone of 2014. All right, guys, hopefully you like this list, and there is plenty more to come. Make sure to give that like thumbs up if you did. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.